Bikers have a strong attraction to iconic roads. We live to ride them. Throughout the world, there are countless roads and road trips worth doing, even if just once. We are always seeking the next big thing. We long for adventure. We seek the winding roads and breathtaking views. After all, what are we without them? Are we even living without being the blood that courses through those asphalt arteries? The North Coast 500 is one of those epic road trips that every biker needs to experience at least once in a lifetime. At every turn there is a photo opportunity, and what you thought it was impossible becomes possible. The dramatic views, the scents, the awesome unspoiled beaches, that's the North Coast 500, a trip of a lifetime, a trip that is made even better when shared with friends, and being blessed by the unfailing light of the sun surely helps too. So we finally did it, me and my girlfriend Andrea on our 2021 Harley-Davidson Sport Glide, and my good friend Eduard on his Triumph Rocket 3. After failing to do it during 2020 and 2021, 2022 was finally the year it happened, and I couldn't have asked for better company and weather. After months of carefully planning our route, we finally took off towards the big adventure. It was 6 in the morning, Wednesday, 22nd of June. Destination? Applecross. It was cloudy, dry and about 14 degrees Celsius. Almost perfect then. Our adventure began in Edinburgh. We met at the Newbridge service station, and shortly after we joined the motorway for a wee while until we got to Stirling. We then turned to the fantastic A84, passing by Callander, then joined the A85 and A82 until we reached magical Glencoe. Shortly after, we took the A87 to the awesome Ellendon Castle, where by pure coincidence we met another Harley-Davidson Sport Glide rider. After some pictures and a lively chat, we continued by the A890 and the A896, taking the coastal route to the Applecross campsite, where we spent our first night. Unfortunately, the GoPro started to misbehave, but let me tell you, the coastal route to Applecross is a fantastic piece of road. It is extremely fun and offers breathtaking views. If you are planning on doing the North Coast 500, do not miss this road. After a good night's sleep, it was time to take the tent down and pack everything for another epic day. Day 2 saw us leaving Applecross to Achmelvich, and what better way to start the day than taking the infamous Balachnaba, also known as Pass of the Cattle. As we made our way up, we started feeling as if we were on the set of a somber horror movie, since clouds had occupied the sky. The ever so dark clouds were covering the mountains, making it feel very dramatic, very moody. Finally, we entered the clouds and soon after reached the top of the Balachnaba, where we stopped for the traditional photo. Unfortunately, we had not much of a view. We made our way down where the dreadful hair-raising hairpin turns were waiting for us. They were tight and had a steep gradient, and on the outside there was a huge drop. Definitely not the place for mistakes. We navigated them with ease, but I cannot stop thinking that going up would be much challenging. Soon we were once again out of the clouds, and we stopped to enjoy the haunted scenery we left just behind. But enough of doom and gloom. We were starving, so we stopped at the Balachnaba Cafe at the bottom of the Balachnaba for a well-deserved breakfast. With the sun now shining, we rode through the awesome A896 to Kinlochhu. The road surface was one of the best we enjoyed. A dramatic scenery surrounded us. On the left, the opponent Benue was looking down on us, and on the right, small rocky mountains being kissed by Loch Clare. I'm running out of words to describe our experience, and we are still at the beginning of day 2. Turning left at Kinlochu saw us on a A832 that would take us on a magical journey through Gerloch, Pulju and Gruinart, to name a few. Another great road that blessed us with its ever-changing but always breathtaking scenery. We then took the A835, passing by Ulepu and Ardmere, and just before Drumrooney we took a left turn into a cracking single track road. We rode for about 8 miles, at which point we turned right to what would be one of the most incredible roads we experienced on this road trip. The views were simply breathtaking. I'm still speechless. It was, in parts, a very tight single track road, so extra caution was necessary, but bloody hell, what a road. Spoiler alert, the best road on the NC 500 route, period. We finally reached Lochinver, at which point we took another great road, the start of the B869. It took us to our destination for the day, Achmelvich. For me, the most beautiful place we saw and stayed at on the North Coast 500 trip. On the next morning, after a walk on the stunning Achmelvich beach, we left the shore caravan site and continued up north on the very exciting, changing and challenging at times B869. It is a hard road to ride, with lots of blind summits and corners, ups and downs, countless passing places and so on. I felt exhausted after those 20 miles, but it is, at the same time, extremely rewarding. The vistas it offers are out of this world. I guess it is reason to say, no pain, no gain. Before crossing the famous Kalesku Bridge, we traveled south for 2 minutes to have a peek at the amazing Wailing Widow Falls, a spectacular waterfall accessible by a very uneven path. After refreshing ourselves and admiring the waterfall for a while, we made our way to the Kalesku Bridge for the traditional photo. We then continued on the A894 and A838 all the way to Darness to enjoy a very well-deserved hot chocolate at the famous Cocoa Mountain. As it often happens, we got distracted chatting with other bikers, so we end up not being able to stop at some of the planned attractions, like the Smoo Caves. No worries, we will be back. We decided to continue on our way to the campsite for the night, the pond-side camping and accommodation in Lerwick. To get there we stayed on the A838 that continued to offer us some spectacular views. Then in Tong we got the A836 to get to what would be our home for the next 2 nights. And even the A836 is a cracking road. It was great to leave the main North Coast 500 route, otherwise we would have never discovered this gem of a road and campsite. It was during this evening that we had our first close encounter with the well-known Scottish beast. Midges, annoying wee things, eh? It was such a nice evening. We were getting ready to sit outside whilst having dinner and drinking a couple of beers. But as soon as the midges saw us, they came straight at us. Thankfully, the campsite had a games room for us to use, so we ran inside as fast as we could. We were safe at last, and we had a blast. The games room was great, we had lots of fun, and we will be back to play foosball again. The following morning, after a shower and a very well deserved scrambled eggs for breakfast, we got ready for 193 miles. We made our way up, backtracking the A836 and then turning right to enjoy the B873 and B871. Both were single track roads, and just like the other roads, it offered us breathtaking scenery. These are not roads to ride fast. These are roads to ride at a slow pace so you can appreciate your surroundings. That's the way I like to ride anyway. We finally rejoined the A836, and after having some fun and passing by beautiful villages and towns, we got to Dunnet Head, the most northerly point in mainland Scotland. Jonagroat might be famous and many people stop there thinking it is the most northerly point in mainland Scotland, but in reality it is not. But before getting there we had another first encounter with the Scottish critter, the famous Island Coo. Such a majestic beast. I only regret not have seen more of them around. Anyway, we then continued to Jonagroat for the traditional picture and for late lunch. We were absolutely starving. Again, too many lively conversations and we lost track of time. So we ended up getting some souvenirs and make our way back to our campsite via the A99 and A9. I have to say, I wasn't expecting much after experiencing the epicness that was the West Coast, but the scenery and the roads were still awesome. In some parts it truly reminded me of the Azores. At the Mound, we took a ride to the A839, which once again offered us great landscapes, and so we got to our campsite after some spectacular 193 miles. Unfortunately, everything good comes to an end. On the next morning, we had to make our way back home, but we were determined to take the most scenic route possible. So we took the A836 south, followed by the B9176 until we finally reached the A9. A few moments later we were going over Cromarty and Cassock Bridges, where we then said hello and bye to Inverness. The North Coast 500 was then completed. We continued on the A96 to Nairn, at which point we took the A939 and A93 through the Cairngorms National Park. It was our first time riding on the Cairngorms National Park, and I have to say it, what a superb experience. Unfortunately, it was here we had to get our waterproofs. Not only that, it was extremely windy, which made the trip very unpleasant and fatiguing. But it was clear to me that I would have to return on a sunnier and less windy day to properly enjoy it. And so, after riding 223 miles on a day and 998 miles over 5 days, we finally got back home. Tired, but extremely happy for the great experience we had on the North Coast 500. I know for certain that we will return, this time over a long period of time, so we can actually spend time chatting with people and enjoying the places we go through.